Today, let's talk about the rebel intellect. We're diving into this really fascinating and honestly often misunderstood type of person, that brilliant mind that just can't seem to follow the rules. You know who I'm talking about, right? Maybe it's a coworker who always has a better way to do things, completely ignoring the official process, or that friend who just has to ask why about everything, even the small stuff. It's a pretty common thing to run into, and let's be honest, it can be super frustrating. But what if we've been looking at it all wrong? What if that frustration we feel is just a big misunderstanding? What if their inability to just go with the flow isn't a weakness, but it's actually the very thing that makes them so brilliant? Well, in this explainer, we're going to dig in and find out what's really going on inside their heads. So, first things first, let's tackle the label we almost always slap on these people. We tend to see this behavior as, a simple character flaw. But the reality, oh, it's way more complicated than that. On the surface, what we see looks like arrogance, right? Or maybe a huge ego, or just plain disrespect for authority. But if you peel back that layer, the psychological reasons behind it are something else entirely. It's not about ego, it's this intense, burning drive for efficiency. They aren't trying to be difficult, their brains are just hardwired to think in systems, and they have this deep, deep need for things to make logical sense. And this quote just hits the nail on the head. Their defiance isn't personal. It's almost never about the manager or the person giving the order. It's about the procedure. They see a system that's clunky or illogical, and their mind just can't bring itself to comply with something it knows is broken. So if it's not just random rebellion for the sake of it, what is it? Well, it turns out there's actually a very logical, almost predictable process going on behind all that defiance. Let's break it down. Their thought process follows this surprisingly structured path. It isn't chaos, it's just critical thinking on overdrive. You see, when they come across a rule, most of us just accept it, not them. Their brain immediately kicks into gear, analyzing its real purpose. From there, it's almost a guarantee they'll spot an inefficiency or a flaw. And here's the most important part. They don't just stop at criticism. Their mind is already racing, building a better, smarter alternative. So what really looks like an attempt to break the system is almost always a deeply ingrained, nearly compulsive need to fix it. They just see a problem, and their first instinct is to solve it, even if that means coloring outside the lines of the official protocol. Okay, let's go one level deeper. We've talked about the how, the way they think, but what about the why? What's the deep psychological motivation that's really driving all of this? Turns out, it comes down to a really powerful, fundamental human need. It all boils down to this concept called psychological autonomy. And this isn't about wanting to be a hermit or a loner. It's a core need that we all have to feel like we're in the driver's seat of our own lives, that our actions come from our own logic and values, not from some random external force pushing us around. And when somebody has a really high need for autonomy, which, by the way, often goes hand in hand with high intelligence, you start to see these traits just pop. They're not motivated by rewards and punishments. They're driven by a sense of purpose. They absolutely can't stand being micromanaged. And they will always choose the logical path over the one that's just there because, well, that's how we've always done it. And this is what connects all the dots. When you hand a brilliant autonomy-driven person a rule that has no clear logical why behind it, it doesn't just feel inefficient to them. It feels like a personal violation. It's like you're trying to control them without a good reason, and that triggers this powerful gut-level resistance. Okay, so we get the psychology now, but what's the actual value here, in the real world? It's so easy to label these people as problems, but what happens if we reframe them as the ones who actually create progress? First, let's be totally clear. Rules are not the enemy. They're essential. They create safety, they make sure things are fair, and they're absolutely critical for any group or company to function and grow. The goal here isn't chaos. It's not about getting rid of all structure. But, and this is a really big but, there's a tension here. Because while rules are great for maintaining how things are now, they almost never create the future. Real breakthroughs, the kind of ideas that completely change the game, they almost never come from people who just followed the instructions perfectly. I mean, think about it. If you just follow procedure, you get stability. That's good. Incremental improvement, yeah, that's valuable, for sure. But the truly massive breakthrough innovations, those are overwhelmingly driven by disruptive thinking, the exact kind of thinking that questions the rules and challenges everything we assume to be true.
So their defiance, that very thing that can make them seem so difficult, is often the very engine that powers the change and evolution we desperately need. They're like the immune system for a company, sniffing out and attacking the processes that are old, inefficient, and holding everyone back. This completely flips the script, doesn't it? It becomes the most critical question for any leader or any team. Instead of asking, how do we get them to fall in line, we should be asking, how do we build a place where their incredible drive to make things better can actually be put to good use?
At the end of the day, the answer isn't to just throw out the rulebook. It's about empathy. It's about understanding. It's about building systems that have a clear why behind them. And it's about having the wisdom to really listen when a rule gets challenged, so you can tell the difference between mindless rebellion and a genuine call to make things better. So I'll leave you with this one final thought to chew on. Every time we demand that people just conform, every time we shut down the person who questions the way things are we just keeping things in order? Or could we be silencing the very voice that was about to lead us to our next great breakthrough?